The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contests, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thepodcastingdead.
Welcome to Weird Wednesday. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. And today we're going to talk about, once again, this is like 2 weeks in a row, we've had old Sasquatch as our topic of conversation. But we're going to be talking about why that sly old fox keeps seeming to evade the mass, the majority of the population.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I've heard claims before that Sasquatch is more of an interdimensional being, which is why he, there's never like a carcass that turns up. He's never like hit by a car and found on the side of the road or anything. And so it kind of lends to that. I'm not saying I'm in that camp altogether, but
you have an open mind to it.
Yeah, and it does make you think.
So in this theory, are we saying that Sasquatch is in control of his ability to travel between dimensions? Or is this like he's fading in and out of dimensions?
A lot of people do say he can at will, travel from this plane of existence to wherever he comes from.
Did you just assume his gender?
I did. Well, I did.
It was not you. It was actually me.
Yeah,
because we don't know. I mean, we assume Sasquatch is a guy. It's just what people have said for years, but who knows? We've heard of female Sasquatches and kid Sasquatches.
There's got to be females.
But and I'm kidding, by the way, for those that are like, oh my God. Anyways, so interdimensional, and so why do you think he travels here from his dimension? What does he get when he comes to our plane of existence?
Well, according to Jack Links, he just comes here for beef jerky. But it's wild stuff, man. Like I've been reading accounts, and a lot of people saying that the reason certain people see him, but it's not like everybody does, is because certain people have greater access, or their pineal gland basically functions differently. Now, we've talked about that in past podcasts. It's
with DMT, right?
You're right. It most people think, and I think it's more or less been proven, that the pineal gland in our brain produces DMT, dimethyltryptamine. I probably said that wrong, but either way. And a lot of people think that's where dreams come from. A lot of people think it's released when you die. If you take DMT, outside of your brain, whether it comes from something in nature or it's produced synthetically in a lab, you trip your balls off. People say it basically feels like you're being launched on a rocket and just taken to a whole nother plane of existence. You come in contact with intelligent beings that communicate things to you. A lot of people think that's just you actually communicating with your subconscious. It's one of those things that hadn't been studied enough to really know for sure. And I mean, we could, we've done podcasts talking a lot about DMT, but a lot of people tie that to Sasquatch. They say, and people tie it to a lot of things, ghost encounters, UFO abductions. They think that basically just people's pineal gland is releasing this DMT, and that's why they're seeing or feel they're experiencing these things. But other people say that the only way you can actually see Sasquatch is if your pineal gland is kind of dialed in to that dimension, more or less. So it's not that he's not real, it's just that you've got to be on a certain wavelength having to do with your pineal gland and enough DMT going into your brain to actually be able to see him.
So the way you're describing this, for those that maybe have played BioShock Infinite, I know you haven't, but Elizabeth can control these tears where basically most people don't see them, but there are like these tears in the fabric of the universe, and she can actually open them, and they take her to parallel universes and things like that. So she can kind of open it, and she doesn't have to go through it. So there are scenes in the game where she opens it up, and she actually can see into a universe that's in the future or in the past, whatnot, and she can close it. So the way you're describing this sounds to me almost like that, like people that have a better pineal gland or a more active pineal gland. I don't know what the better term would be for it.
That's a good way to describe it.
People with a more active pineal gland, it's almost like, so Sasquatch isn't actually in this universe. It's just we're kind of seeing like a parallel universe where he is.
That's one
like
school of thought. Yeah, absolutely.
Forgive my slowness on this. I'm just trying to.
Well, I mean, dude, there's so many schools of thought on this. Some people think that it actually gives us a window into our ancient past, and that we're seeing a creature that did exist, like physically on this earth, but that no longer does. And other people, as we've been saying, think that it kind of gives us a glimpse into that DMT dimension, where it's almost like in Stranger Things, where old boy can like get glimpses of the upside down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, there's a lot of schools of thought, man. I've been reading different accounts, different ideas, and it's a deep old rabbit hole to go down, I can tell you that much.
I think of all the supernatural things, or actually, I guess this would technically be not supernatural, but one of the more interesting things to me has always been residual energy. Mm-hmm. Like the thought that when you die, you're not still here, you're gone, but there is kind of like a copy of you, or like your energy is kind of stuck here in the atmosphere.
Yeah, sort of like an echo.
Right, yeah. And when you say that Sasquatch could be, us from, a glimpse into our past, kind of that missing link, I guess, maybe in the evolution or a part of the evolutionary process. It is interesting to consider perhaps some relation to residual energy in that. Because, a lot of times with ghosts, if you have the ghosts where it's like they're reported doing the exact same thing over and over again. It's a lady in white coming down the steps every night at midnight, and that's just all she does. That sounds like a case of residual energy. It's just like JP said, like an echo of her is just stuck in this universe. She's long gone, much like stars that die. She's long gone, but we're still able to see her light, if that makes any sense. And it's, and I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I mean, when you say that they're able to see Sasquatch and that could be connected to our past, does that mean they're seeing into the past? Maybe they're seeing like residual energies stuck here on Earth. I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's one of those things, there's really no concrete answer to it. Some people do say, yeah, you're literally like there. It's almost like a dimensional rift that gives you a window into our ancient past, and you are actually seeing, something in the same place, just a different time. Other people say that, it, like you're alluding to, that it's more of a residual energy, just almost like a ghost of the past still lingering. I'm more on the side of you're getting a glimpse into the DMT dimension, because I know I've read accounts of like groups of people, taking DMT, whether they're smoking it or whatever, and really just having it's crazy, like a collective effervescence, like they're having this hallucination, but they're all seeing the exact same thing, which, I mean, different people, different brains, you shouldn't be everyone having the exact same hallucination, which kind of leads me to believe that it is giving you a glimpse into a different plane of existence.
Well, now, one thing that's interesting you've discussed before is with the DMT trips that people seem to experience these like unworldly beings, but they're all described the same by people from across the world that are doing the DMT. Like these entities are very similar to other accounts of people that have never met or never before shared their experience publicly in that way. And now that they have, they're finding a lot of connection. Has anybody ever seen Bigfoot in this DMT-induced place that your mind goes to?
I don't know if anyone's actually seen a Sasquatch during a DMT trip. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, a lot of people say you see beings that almost look like they're made of like geometric shapes, kind of like kaleidoscope sort of people.
I thought you were about to say chia pets.
Well, that probably.
Say, I don't want to go to a chia pet universe.
I know. I think Graham Hancock said one of his last DMT trips, and this from an interview several years ago. But basically, these little entities like pulled him apart piece by piece, and he said it was pretty horrifying, as you can imagine.
I was going to say, like in a violent way, or were they like dissecting him? Were they just being evil? I mean, what was the point of pulling him apart?
Some people do claim that you can come in contact with malevolent forces in this DMT experience, and which, I mean, I've never done DMT. I have tried other hallucinogens, and it's one of those things where you kind of get whatever you take in with you. If you're in a negative headspace, you're probably going to have a negative experience. It's a lot like if you're feeling real emo and you start drinking, you're just going to get more and more depressed and emo feeling, It's sort of like that. So, and that's why a lot of people say you're not actually going anywhere. You're just exploring the depths of your own mind.
That's why when people are having a rough day and someone's like, you need a drink. No. I mean, when I say rough day, like girlfriend left them or someone died, like, no, you probably don't. Maybe have a little Mary Jane. That'll kind of clear your head a bit. But the booze is not going to do anything but make you a little more emotional.
That's true.
In the long run. Now, 1 or 2 drinks, maybe not. But if you get sloshed, whatever you're carrying is going to be amplified. I've seen that so many times. I've experienced that so many times.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. Me too.
But no, the thought of Bigfoot being this transdimensional being is interesting. I just wonder what he or she would stand to gain from coming to this universe. I mean, what's the point? Are they running out of resources there? And
yeah, that's just kind of a matter of conjecture. But it is a lot like a lot of people say. Ghosts are. They're just interdimensional beings, and only certain people can see them because certain people are dialed into whatever frequency or vibration they're on. We've talked about that before. So it's almost like Sasquatch is in the same category as spooks and specters and such.
Haven't you said before that some people think the Sasquatch has like a third eye, perhaps, or like mastery of the pineal gland or something? Hasn't there been some kind of another tie-in to Bigfoot and the pineal gland?
Yeah, I've heard that as well. That it's almost like if he's around, your pineal gland is going to like sort of activate in a weird kind of way, which is interesting.
So,
yeah. So if you're friends with Bigfoot, man, you're going to be tripping your ass off quite a bit.
Well, now see what that sounds like, though. That almost sounds like what I was saying with BioShock. Like Bigfoot exists in a parallel universe, or maybe an Earth that's very similar to ours, but where the Bigfoots and Sasquatches were the evolved dominators of the planet, and perhaps being that our dimensions are so close,
right?
Perhaps getting into areas where he is in his universe, and your pineal glands sync up. I don't know, man. That's interesting. I mean, I don't put much stock into that, but that is a really interesting theory. Man, writing-wise, that could make a really cool story.
It definitely could. So, again, I do think that there is still like a small population of Bigfoots that have been here a lot longer than we have. But the idea that it is sort of an interdimensional being, man, I'm not closed off to it. And I'm not closed off to the idea that maybe that's a way in which they kind of hide themselves, is by manipulating stuff like that.
Right.
Our sense of perception through the third eye.
What if Bigfoot and simulation theory go hand in hand?
Oh,
what if we're in a simulation right now constructed by the Bigfoots? Would I say Bigfoots, or would we call them Big Feet?
I
think in this instance, Bigfoots is the right, because
I would think I don't know what the correct pluralization is.
The Big Feet.
That's probably right.
I'm gonna call them Bigfoots just because I like to sound as poorly educated in grammar as possible. Maybe get away with it. Bigfoots from here on out.
Maybe it's like deer. Maybe Bigfoot can be singular or plural. Who knows?
That's probably that sounds more right, but we're going to go with Bigfoots. On this channel from here forward, they shall be known as Bigfoots when we're referencing them in the plural. But no, what if we're in a simulation and the Bigfoots are behind all of it? I mean, what do you think about that?
It could what behind the simulation? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Like
they've got us in a simulation.
There's like scientist Bigfoot out there. Just
Yeah.
Like like Agent, like Bigfoot's basically Agent Smith in the Matrix.
Well, what if? Well, not quite, but like, what if they're spreading signal with their pineal glands or their third eye? Like, what if all of this is just a projection of their minds, and it's just something to keep us busy and away from them, or maybe they're studying us, or maybe it's a defense mechanism. Perhaps they, I don't know. What do you think about that?
It is possible, man. They may have seen the evolution of early man and be like, this is going to be one destructive ass species. And they were like, we're not, it goes against our moral code to just wipe them out. We're not going to commit genocide. So we'll plug them into this simulation to see exactly what they would do to the earth if left alone to evolve.
Right.
And now we're just playing their game and seeing if we pass the test. And if we blow up the earth, like we probably will, they'll probably just unplug us. I don't know.
What if the simulation, what if when we encounter them, that's just them popping into the simulation to observe?
It could be, man.
What if Bigfoot isn't even what Bigfoots look like? What if
it's just like
that's just a form that, like a form they take when they come in? What if we're in a simulation and the people who are putting on the simulation enter disguised as Bigfoot to see how we react to a foreign creature? And of course, most people's instinct is, I'm going to hunt and kill it.
Yeah.
And so that's not a good look, whereas some of us are like, we just want to study it. You know what I mean? We want to learn about it, but we don't want to harm it. So what if that's just, I don't know, man. We're reaching far out today.
Yeah, it's getting wild. It's getting wild. So, yeah, I mean, that does make you think, man. I've been thinking a lot about simulation theory lately just because, Westworld just wrapped up. That was heavy in that. Rick and Morty this past week.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but I don't know. When exploring, I like to throw ideas out there. I know some of these sound stupid and like I'm reaching, but I mean, it's just fun to think. I love thought experiments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there could be some credence to that, man. I was thinking earlier, I'm a big I have a lot of interest in flat Earth theory, and I was thinking maybe you
were about to say you're a big flat earther, weren't you? Like, that's where that was going. You were about to say I'm a big flat earther.
But I don't want to draw a line in the sand, but
you already have.
Perhaps I have. But
you already have.
Maybe
it's a very round
used
line.
To be round, but we're in a simulation, and now maybe they have made us living on a flat Earth. And, this is just like a re-education thing. I don't know. Just like I said, if we are in a simulation, you have to think like anything and everything could be changed just like a line of code in a program, Like right now, I mean, white people, black people, tan people, maybe they change us to blue, green, and purple people. You see what I'm saying?
Mitch Hedberg said, "Whoa, man, I draw the line at purple people."
I would bang some purple people. I'd be interested in that.
But what do you think? If we're in a simulation right now, what do you think the point of the simulation is? I mean, do you think that we, in the sense of simulation, in that regard, I'm referencing like Matrix, to where we're actually like real beings, but we're being put in a simulation. But what if we're just part of a program? Like, what if we are like a video game? Are we just NPCs on the sidelines?
Yeah, it makes you want. So, I mean, we would be like sentient, just, lines.
Or are we sentient? Or did somebody write everything for us, like in Westworld? Or our actions and our lines scripted? There have been experiments that have, somewhat determined that we don't even really have free will, because in our mind, like our mind makes a decision before we really do. And I know your mind is you, but at the end of the day, like there's some experiment they've done where they found that like people's choices were almost predetermined. So are we just scripted lines of code?
Yeah, and that goes back to like the ancient thought of like predestination and stuff. Like, the ancient people thinking God had pretty much already written out your life, and you're just going through the motions.
Yeah, and I don't understand how predestination can exist. Predetermination can exist alongside free will. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a question goes back way, way back.
Yeah, I've had a few debates about that, but But, the thing is if we're just a part of let's think about video games. All right, just look at the difference, man. You and I aren't old. We're like quarter life, but we're not old, but we're not, crazy young either.
Chickens anymore.
But look at how video games have evolved in just our lifetime. Side-scrolling little green bars on a TV screen. And then when Nintendo comes out with these color video games, it's just the coolest schnit ever. And then, past that, the Super Nintendo, then the N64. I mean, just look at in just like 30 years, how much the gaming industry has transformed. Now you have immersive virtual realities you can go into, and these games with these characters that have lives of their own, and just almost a real human, like you can conversate with them and such. So, I mean, what do you think it's going to be like in another 30 years? So what if, someone before us has already advanced that far and we're just part of a video game? Like, this is kind of like blips and shits, like it's just this whole other blips and shits. How do they say? On Rick and Morty.
Oh, man, I can't remember.
But like, what if we're all just part of somebody else's, like that's what God is the programmer.
Yeah, it very well could be. I mean, scientists say that like the world around us on an atomic level, like subatomic level, it looks vastly different than what our brain interprets it to be.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's like code and math in existence. You know what I mean? Like it's they find these strings of almost like code. It's baffling. I mean, like, what if that's what because, I've seen some glitch in the Matrix videos, and some can be explained, right? Like, you have a bird that's not flapping their wings and just kind of floating there. And they're like, it's a glitch in the Matrix, but it makes perfect sense that the wings have synced up with the frame rate of the camera.
Right.
That it's doing its thing, and the wing flaps are going right along with it, therefore making it look like the bird's just like this and moving. Same thing with like helicopters, because you can find some very eerie videos of helicopters flying through the sky, but the rotors aren't turning, and it's just really bizarre looking. But what that is it's syncing up with the frame rate of your camera, and that makes perfect sense. Well, the shutter speed, I should say that. So, but there are some that I don't understand. Like, there are videos where airplanes just are sitting in the middle of the sky and not moving for a minute, and then they continue on their path. Ooh. There's nothing, the shutter speed I don't think would have anything to do with that. Maybe it does. Let me know. But, some of those videos are easy to explain away, but some are very interesting. That's some of my favorite things to listen to when I'm riding, like in my truck from town to work or whatnot, is glitch in the Matrix stories. Yeah, it's interesting. I need to look up some of these images you're talking about, man. I heard one this morning that was fascinating. A guy and his friends were on the way somewhere, and he was pretty familiar with where they were going, but it was taking longer than he was used to. And then somebody in the car was like, haven't we passed that tree like 20 times already? Like, they were stuck in a time loop. They weren't taking turns. They weren't like taking lefts and rights. They were just doing their thing, going down the road, but we're going nowhere. And then all of a sudden, it's like everything changes, and, it's like the system had a reboot or something. Yeah. Let me see. I'm going to show you some of these. Oh, boy. Speaking of which, we also podcast about The Walking Dead, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I just saw what looked to be an article stating that they've released release dates. Have they? Oh, man. They've given release dates. Yep, so I'm going to look up some of these Glitch in the Matrix videos and let you take a look. Well, actually, you know what? I'll show you these after the podcast, because it's But yeah, look them up. Like, you can YouTube those, like Glitch in the Matrix. There are some bizarre things that have happened out there. And I don't know, man. I mean, I know we started off talking about Bigfoot, but I like to, we just, with everything being so busy, we like JP and I both work at a radio station full time. And when the coronavirus first started, it got really, it got busy, and then it kind of got a slow point. Now it's getting busy just keeping the community informed and posting this and doing that. So forgive us for not having like a main topic of discussion per se, but we were kind of still thinking glitch in the Matrix or Matrix simulation theory from Rick and Morty and Westworld. And then JP had read an interesting article that the Sasquatch could possibly be like an extraterrestrial being that you're seeing with your pineal gland. I still think it's super cool, and maybe we should write a book about it, but to where they exist in a parallel universe very close to ours, very, very close. And if they're in an area, like in their universe, that matches where you are in our universe, and you're close enough and you've got the right pineal gland, they sync up. And you actually are able to see and interact with each other. And it looks like you're in the same universe, but you're not. Or maybe the two blend together. So that's, we'd heard that and decided to discuss that a bit. But as soon as everything slows down with COVID-19 and the state starts opening back up, we'll be able to have more serious, dedicated subjects for Weird Wednesdays. But I like that sync up idea, man. That's cool as hell.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild. And it would explain why... there's never really a clear photograph, like trail cams never catch an image of Bigfoot. You never see one like dead on the side of the road because a trucker hit him, You don't hit a Sasquatch and kill it with a truck. I don't know.
You hit a Sasquatch and the Sasquatch just slings you.
That might be the case.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts on the possibility of the Sasquatch being this trans-dimensional being. I think it's fascinating. I'd love to hear more about it. I'm sure our good friend Derek has something to add. He's very big into the Bigfoot and Sasquatch lore and has given me lots of really cool and important information in the past. So we'll see what people think. Next Weird Wednesday, maybe we'll take it back to the paranormal a little bit. Maybe we'll go into some ghosts or some mythological being. I heard of a new interesting creature called stickmen, which sounds similar to skinwalkers, but they're different. They're different. So, maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah. I'm out there for it.
But yeah, either way, we will see you soon. And don't forget to check out our Patreon, where you can get exclusive podcasts. I think at least an extra 8 podcasts a month for as little as $1. Can't beat that. And those are a lot more free form, a lot more just us, where we cover a little bit of everything. Speaking of which, there's going to be a surprise Wednesday Patreon podcast on there today.
Ooh la la.
So check that out. And we'll talk to you soon. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.